for 13 years. I have to resign to enter the streets, which I am. So to build leaders, it will take years because, first of all, let's look at how Nigeria was given. It was a foreigner that gave Nigeria this name, Florence Shaw. That means everything we are doing in Nigeria is foreign. We cannot live without foreign things. So you don't expect quality leadership at this moment because we are not really electing the right leaders in the right positions. If, for example, the last elections, Nigerians came out and vote. If our votes are counted, Nigeria can decide that this is the person we want. If you make any mistake, we'll tell you, go out of the leadership. But it's not like that. So it will take some years because the system has impoverished, have made many people poor. So when they see money, they can say anything. They can support anybody they like. But I'm praying that by God's grace in my generation and other generations coming, they should also look at how you as a youth must be self-employed. Self-employed means that you should, when you see something that is wrong, say it out. Even though somebody is paying you salary, tell the person this thing is wrong. So if we're able to have such leaders in place, Nigeria will have a better leadership, but it will take years. First of all, you must be educationally equipped. The level we are now, we're in the social media era. Social media can teach you good, bad, ugly, and so on. You can expose yourself to many training, skills. The reason why our youth remain where we are not ready to learn. We know it all. We have a lot of youth. At this age, I've written over 14 books. And this time around, my books sold so much in this the program where people want to read. I was surprised that Nigerians are still reading, despite the hardship. So people want to read. People want to learn. People want new things. So I'm advising the youth now, try to be self-independent. Have integrity. Build yourself for tomorrow. Don't allow any political leader to take you unaware. So if we can build ourselves, I'm telling you, the future is bright for the youth.
Okay, as you know, my name is Babatunde Jala Ipega. I shortened it. That was part of my journey to Baba Jala Ipega. I was born here in Lagos, just a stone throw away from here in actually Lagos Hospital here. And I was expelled from school. I went to Corona Ikoyi at the age of 6. My teacher, who I found to be quite unjust at the time, made us all stand, and I remember this, even though it's like almost 45 years ago, but I remember standing outside Corona School in the heat with all the students in my class because one boy had done something and no one owned up. So I found that quite unjust that all of us had to suffer. So I picked up a stone and I threw that stone at my headmistress's glass and it broke her window. She told my parents, and my parents weren't very happy, of course, but they realized that I wasn't meant to be in a school like that here. So the teacher actually asked me to leave, and my parents took me to England. They said, take this child to England. We can't control this child here. He's a wild fellow. So as soon as I got to England, I went to Tunbridge Wells in Kent. I went to school there, and it was the most cold experience I've ever had in my life. I was 6.5 going to 7, and I went to boarding school at that age. And I think that woke me up in life straight away, that even in comfort, you still have steel. And by that, I mean that everyone would think, oh, you are lucky, you went to England at 6, 7. But I was very young. I was put in a dormitory with children from England, from Japan, from Saudi Arabia. We were all very young. There was a lot of crying in the dormitory, 12 boys, 6 on each side. And the room was very cold. I remember the cold. But one other thing I got to learn was rugby. And through my life, rugby and learning to deal with my condition and environment has instilled a strength in me. And as we know in Nigeria, you have a lot of things that happen that are out of your control, but you have to find a way to evolve and adapt. And I think from the age of 6, 7, I was very lucky to have that. I went to the oldest school in the world called King's Canterbury. started by St. Augustine in 598 AD. This was the secondary school I went to. And my life seemed pretty, what they say, gold-leafed at the time. Everyone's like, you enjoy, you're in Nigeria, you're in London. I learned to speak Spanish. Unfortunately, I lost my Yoruba, but I'm trying to get that back. I learned to speak Spanish and French. But at the age of 17, my father had a stroke. And he was working too hard, obviously. And sadly, my mom and dad had split up by that time. So my whole life that seemed so rosy stopped because my father's business partners, all of them somehow took the business and it went away. And from that going away, we were left destitute. My dad was in a coma for 3 months, and my mother, who wasn't working, because my sisters and I have two lovely older sisters, Yewande and Gigi, we were still in school. So much so that my last year's school fees were not paid. But one of my uncles kindly paid for my school fees, and my mother had to go to work. She started her own business. She too was a journalist, Mrs. Ibiene Epega, but she started a chauffeur driving company and started using cars to drive people with her staff. So from that age where I thought a university was going to be given, I was left floating in the abyss because we didn't have financials. So for 1 year I had to work in a post office in London, and it was quite an eye-opener for me, but it didn't stop me from adapting. And again, adaptation helped me grow. So from being in a very wealthy family as a young man, coming to the age of 17 to become an adolescent, grown up, I realized that nothing is given. My father sadly was in a stroke, and when he had that stroke, he became semi-paralyzed. For another 30 years, he was semi-paralyzed. But my mother died quite soon after that time in a car crash on the road to Warri, because my Okrika side and Warri side is where my mom was from, even though my father was Ijebu. So my mother died at the age of, when I was 21, which was 20 actually, when I was starting university. And my father was semi-paralyzed. So I became the father of the family, even though my sisters were older and far more intelligent than me. But being the man, I had to take control of a lot of things. And I think that's what really gave me the tenacity to understand that I really need to be someone who doesn't just walk in one field. I need to spread my risk. From my university, I did mathematical economics and Spanish. I was able to go to University, Queen Mary College, London University. And from there I finished. As I said, I worked again. So I worked before I went to uni, and then I worked afterwards. And for me, life is about collaboration, communication, and tenacity. And I think that those were my first 21 years. There were less people in Lagos in those days. I won't lie. I grew up every summer and even Christmas where we could afford it. Back in my day, 1978, 79, Naira was 0.8 to £1. So you can understand that people were very wealthy. I think in those days there was like 40 million people. It wasn't that much of it because my dad was an estate surveyor. So we used to go to Abuja a lot. And he was one of the surveyors that gridded Abuja when it was being built during the late 70s, 80s with Obasanjo, and even before Murtala Mohammed. They were gridding it. And Lagos, or should I say Abuja, was made the capital. And Abuja is a model city of Milton Keynes, which is a model city of Paris. Just like Brasilia in Brazil was changed from Rio de Janeiro as a capital. So for me, coming back to Lagos was a joy. I enjoyed it because I was young. We used to just walk, run the streets on our bicycles and cycling, just exploring. Everything was open. There weren't as many cars. It was no big apartments, and there weren't as many people. So I had a beautiful time. There were a lot of lizards on the ground, and we used to throw stones at them. But that was my own youth. We used to go to the beach a lot. Bar Beach was around. It's not around now. Sadly, my dad used to take me to Bar Beach to see the capital punishment killings of armed robbers, and even Dimka, who was one of the leaders of the coup d'etat against Murtala Mohammed. We saw him shot there. Saturdays was a big day, and NTA used to have a channel. I think they still have their studio there. So one of our aunties, Miss Julie Coker, was there. So we saw a different side of Nigeria. We would go to Ibadan, we would go to Ijebu, we would go to Benin, we would go to Port Harcourt by road. In those days, you could travel, and along the way, we go to Akure, you pick up mangoes, you pick up coconuts. My dad would pick up palm wine, all these things on the road that I don't know if you get it now because security is an issue. So for me, it was a romantic time. I think fashion evolving through Nigeria has started as a siloed industry. By that I mean every individual was doing their own thing, whether they were a seamstress, a tailor, a designer, a stitcher, they were doing their own thing. But we are realizing that with the 200 plus million people we have in Nigeria, you can't be an individual alone doing your own thing. So the evolution of fashion that I've seen in my own small way, as someone who's worked in the industry, is that there's more collaboration. The designers are looking for hire specialist artisans to help with their stitching, the styling, and the putting together of clothes and accessories. So I'm also seeing small grassroots shoots, very small at the moment, of the government playing a part in bringing together some kind of foundation so people can articulate their fashion designs to the world, because we have seen it in a lot of music. Obviously, Afrobeat is one of our biggest exports in this country. Obviously, there's oil and all the others, but I'm talking about within this entertainment, luxury, lifestyle industries. So we're trying to learn from that how private sector can play a part to enhance this fashion sector. So now we're seeing a lot of vibrant colors, a lot of styles. Men's fashion is big. It's not just women's fashion. Men's grooming is massive. Hair and beauty as well. So men are taking care of ourselves more and more. And accessories. Accessories, I think, is fundamentally the quick fix of fashion, where we can enhance and create jobs and hyper growth in GDP by focusing on this. And this is where I implore the government with, working in mineral resources, our precious metals, semi-precious metals, help those industries to grow. There's a great lady, Janet Adeyemi, who works in Women in Business, and she is working within that. Let's help our fairer sex or the female gender to grow in business as well, because there's a fundamental knowledge that if half your population are women, as ours is roughly, or maybe 51%, 52%, you have to educate the women so they too can add to GDP. It's a simple economist theory. You can't leave them out of it because it's very important. And these industries in fashion are enhanced by women, and we need to push that forward. I think the banking system needs to be augmented. And I'm saying this from the government's perspective. The ease of doing business in Nigeria, as an investor myself, a foreign investor, as well as being an indigent in Nigeria, the problem is not getting your money to Nigeria, it's getting your money out of Nigeria. Not that you want to suck all the money out of the country, but what can help is the floating exchange rates, the flow and liquidity of money that can come in and out of the country. A lot of investors are worried about how they get their money out of Nigeria. So I think our banking system, going back to the central bank, which they're working on, needs to be much more fluid. So people feel they can invest and take money out. But also, we need to articulate what is on offer. We need to start some kind of documentation of who is available to have investment with, where they can be found, because it's because we are quite an opaque economy, meaning that people can't see the end of where they're putting their money. Once we do that basis and open up the lights within which kind of businesses are available to be invested in, I think a lot of investors, domestic and international, will be more willing to put money to it. I think content creation for me has been an evolution. I started as an ex-banker, as I said. I used to trade futures and options in Barclays Bank. I was on the Life Exchange, trading bonds, and I found that wasn't my life. I wanted to be more closer to people. Some people can be bankers on the trading desk or trading floor, but not for me. So I started doing events. I was very lucky enough to show that I was quite adept at doing events. So a big company called Richemont, they owned Cartier, Dunhill, Hackett. They were part of British American Tobacco. They took me on to do their events. So I was doing a lot of polo matches, a lot of Christmas parties, a lot of brand activation events in England. So for me, I got a lot of content knowledge from that. Different styles, people, different countries. But in the last 10 years, I felt that helping companies like LinkedIn, Google, all kinds of big banks in Europe and America was not my remit. My business, EMC3, was going very strongly in America. But as a Nigerian man, I didn't feel love in America. I know that everyone says it's the land of opportunity, but being someone of my own African descent, I didn't like the mentality there. People are good, but the infrastructure is racist institutionally, as we know. So I felt I wanted to give something back to Nigeria. And with all the 20 years of, at that time, about 17 years of knowledge I gained from doing some of the best Grand Prix parties in the world, Formula One, around Monza, Silverstone, Abu Dhabi, I was doing a lot of events. I thought, let me take this back to Nigeria. I didn't have to come back to Nigeria. I wanted to. And I know with all our grievances with Nigeria, if you ask many Africans about Nigeria, they'll say, they look up to us. You guys, you have Chinua Achebe, you have Wole Soyinka, you have Fela Kuti. What's your problem? You have Chimamanda Adichie. What's your problem? So we have to take ownership and say, yeah, we do have all these people. We have Afrobeats, whether it's Burna Boy, Davido, the Venus Bushfires, all these different people that are exported. Let us look inside and say, wow, we do have a lot. So I wanted, as a content creator, to show Nigeria in all the different sectors that we do have a lot. And that's why with the marketing and communications company that I've started, my own company, I felt I could touch so many sectors. And finance, as I mentioned, I work with banks. Also government, Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, a very great entity. I work in fashion, with brand labels and people across the board. There are great shops like Alara here that also promote African fashion and African business. And did you know even Leventis does a lot of research, Nigerian bottling company, to help this country. And do you know Nigeria was blowing glass 1,000 years, almost 1,000 years before Europe knew glass blowing? And it's been found in Oyo State only recently. So it's very important that architecturally, we take ownership of our country. The Nok civilization that has been in the mid to, I think it's above Abuja, near Benue, and even Niger River, above those basins, that has a lot of artifacts and a lot of archaeological excavation potential. But we've allowed that just to linger. People have stolen a lot of our artifacts. Nigeria was known for Benin bronzes. We were the best smelters of iron before people were smelting iron. So these are things we have to take stock of. And me as a content creator, I bring all that information together and I make sure that people acknowledge it and are aware of it. So then that will uplift us all. Now, this is a political question, but I believe with our background of the last 20, 30 years, we've had, sadly, leaders who have been militarily inclined, let's just call it that. And as we know, military people, they don't like educated people because educated people will ask questions. So we have had what we call a dismemberment of education in Nigeria for the last 35 years. And that has played an endemic part in retarding the gross domestic productivity of our country, because our youths and even people up to my age and older have not had the infrastructure, middle class education that is needed for a country to grow. You look at the Industrial Revolution in the 18th, 19th century in Europe, especially in Britain, and you look how they were expanded by merchants and artisans and specific skilled workers. Apprenticeships were big, education was huge. There was what they call a noblesse obligée, a nobility obligation, that people who are rich give back to institutions, not to church, to institutions that will help education. And that is where I think we've had a disconnect. Education was lacking. So for me, the way that we can help, it takes time. This new government is in. They are trying to implement the 8-point agenda, which is a good agenda. But everyone's looking for results now. Nigeria has been in a very bad state. There's global downturn. Obviously, cost of living is so high as it has been for a while. Nigeria is exacerbated, but in Europe, cost of living is high. There are some stupid wars going on around the world that has meant oil prices have skyrocketed. And you know, with the rocketing of oil, everything goes up price-wise. So Nigeria needs to reevaluate education and apprenticeship. I believe even in fashion industry especially, apprenticeship is very important. Whether it's weaving, designing, marketing, online, whatever it is, factories, you need apprenticeship. And that's the quick fix of education. But education is fundamental to everything. Education of men and women, or girls and boys, both. Let's be honest, we need both sides of our genders to work together. You know, Yoruba, we've always been what we call a dual binary kind of culture. We've always thought of male and female as one, and it's very important. Even in our names, Taiwo and Kehinde, we won't know if it's male or female. So we have to really educate ourselves that we can work together. And I think our women are our future. I can't even emphasize that more. And education is key. But it takes time. I think Japa syndrome is very real. Everyone wants a better life. Let's not lie. You want a better life for yourselves, but for your family, your parents, your children. And the opportunities in Nigeria, even when you have been educated and you finish graduate here, to find jobs is not easy. The infrastructure is very bad for job creation. And this is being worked on, we know. And the last 8 years has been fundamentally broken. But we know this new government is changing that. But specifically, Japa in Canada, they need our brains. You go across the world and you ask any nation, especially America, who are the best educated, the best, integrated, and the most proficient people, Nigerians. So it's not that we are stupid, it's that we don't have the infrastructure at home. And America, Canada, Europe, they're giving us the infrastructure. So getting out of Nigeria is not easy. There are opportunities and policies that allow it, but going across the border to Libya is not the way. You spend $5,000, $4,000, which is almost 4 or 5 million naira, to try and get to Europe, and then you are treated like a dog when you get there. That's not the way. But you know, there are certain policies that can take you to these countries. And in Britain, for instance, it's not all, the streets aren't paved in gold, but if you earn £1 in Britain, you send that home, that £1 is 1,300 naira. So, and the minimum wage is £14 an hour now in Britain. So you can do the maths of that. So someone who is earning £14 an hour, if they work 10 hours in a day, they've earned over £100, which is 100,000 naira. So the mass, of course, is what makes people want to go there, because even if you are working there, obviously you're paying British rates, so your rent, your cost of utilities, your food and drink, your transport comes into play. It's not cheap there. But the money you send, even if you're only sending £100 a month back to your mom, that's 100,000 naira. So, or 130,000 naira in today's rate. So you can do the maths. That's why people are going. And the security in these countries is, and the education, to be quite frank, is better. But it doesn't mean they are better. We have to build a house, you must thatch the roof from within so your roof doesn't cave in. And I think that's very important. Not that people shouldn't go home. I mean, go out of the country, but they should always come home as they can. Because we need, you see the Pakistanis doing it, you see the Indians doing it, you see the Arabs, they go home and they build their own countries. It's not good to just japa and leave. You have to come home small. I think my success is down to, as much as I can say a success, because it's still a book that is not finished and the stories are still unwritten, is a tenacity of hard work. It's very important that people understand that it takes a lifetime to look like an overnight success. It doesn't just come. What I'm still doing, I'm not the most successful in my business, but I love my business. And if you can find something that you love and you can make money out of, then you're in heaven on earth, to be quite frank. I think my spirituality and my faith is very important, as is my wife's. My wife, Helen Epega, she wrote the world's first Pidgin English opera. And we've been staging it here in London. We played in Cape Town, in Nairobi, and in Lagos, sorry. And we've staged it in London. We're at the Royal Albert Hall next year. I'm executive producer of that. So I think my success, to add to that, is that I don't put all my eggs in one basket. And I work very hard to make sure I research and obtain knowledge of the next thing or what was the last thing. I'm a historian as well. And I put things in perspective. And I try to add value as I can. But as my momsy used to say, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So I like to listen as well. And from children you can learn, from grandpapa you can learn. So humility is very important. I'm not arrogant with it. And I think that's the most important part. Collaboration, humility, and shared drive. But also knowing that for me, Saturday and Sunday, I'm off. That's my time for the family. I take a break. Sunday, even God rested on the 7th day. Me too, I rest. I'm not 24/7, even though this weekend we have a big fashion event, but that's work. But when I take my tools down, it's tools down. No one can call me on Sunday morning. So you can't be BOing to people. Never let anyone own you like that. That's what I say. Someone calling you on Sunday morning, obviously in journalism, in film, it's a different from projects. I'm not saying every time, but just be aware of yourself and your mental health. That's the most important. Sure. The world's first Pidgin English opera is a show about a Nigerian fabled people. It's almost like Orisha, but it's not. There are people who are Mami Waters as well as they are spiritual people. They are the guardians of the galaxy, to use an expression. There is God, the all faithful God, and the all knowing God, omniscient, omnipotent. But below that, there are all these almost demigods that look after, let's say, this sector of the universe. And these people are singers. They sing opera. But they sing it with Pidgin English. And you know, Pidgin is a language that is known by most Nigerians, but it's a language that people shun and say, it's a bad language. But they speak Pidgin in Hawaii. They speak Pidgin in China. They speak Pidgin, Old English Cockney is Pidgin. American even is a form of Pidgin because they Yankified English. So what my wife has done, Helen Epega, she's also known as the Venus Bushfires. She's an Afrofuturist musician. She composes songs. So she put together this compilation, which is a Pidgin English opera musical. And it's a show that lasts for about 45 minutes or an hour and a half. It depends if you're doing the short version or long version. So we have tenors, we have sopranos, we have violinists, we have kura player, and my wife plays something called the hang, which is like 2 tortoise shells, steel drums that sound like a harp. And she plays that and she sings. She's the main protagonist in this. And it's a drama about all these people that have come, the Meneme people, who are meant to look after the planet, but they lose their voice. So Earth is because God is angry with them, the Earth, and says these people are rubbish. But the Meneme people say to God, please give them one more chance. They're not that bad. I know they're fighting, there's lots of wars, but give them another chance. So the lead Kanate of these Meneme people has to go to the Venus bushfire, which is the heavenly celestial place, to bring the voice back, to sing Earth back into harmony. So it's a drama, and it kind of plays on our old cultural awareness in Africa and heritage of Nigeria of there are other beings. And you must have faith in your ancestors as well as in a God. And the deities, as we know in Yoruba, I think there are 7 deities. And these are very important cultural awareness that we try to give to children as well. I think the filmmaking in Nigeria is burgeoning. AFRIF, the African Film Festival, International Film Festival, is on now, which is a great show. I helped incept in 2010, many years ago. We had it in Port Harcourt. It was Governor Rotimi Amici that started that campaign, but it's going on very strongly now. Nollywood, as we call it, is being noticed by the international market, whether it's Netflix or Hollywood. I would like to tell you something actually, which is, I haven't divulged this for many years. My great uncle, whose name is Pa Orlando Martins, God rest his soul, was one of the first African actors in Hollywood. He acted in the 30s with people like Ronald Reagan, Katharine Hepburn, and Bob Hope. And he always played a part as an African prince or chief. He was never like denigrated or made into a lower African slave or anything. And I think that instilled something in my mind with this film industry. I think it's very important that Nigeria, as it is, we have some great actors like Wale Ojo and Ramsey Noah. They are playing parts in producing their own shows. And it's very important. Like in America, you obviously have people like Mel Gibson, Robert De Niro, who have produced their own films as well. That Nigerians are not just actors or technicians, they are also producers and directors. It's very important that we have that link within our industry. And we make friends and we forge relationships, not just with Hollywood, there's Bollywood, the Indian industry, and there's also Chinawood, because China's film industry is massive. Technically, I think just as big as Hollywood. So we must look to ourselves in Africa as well. There's some great film makers from Zimbabwe, South Africa, Ghana, and I think collaboration is, I always use collaboration because I would not be here without collaboration. Obviously, my wife, you collaborate with your spouse, but also my businesses. I have very good English business partner. He's really a business partner. I've started a new business. I collaborate with all kinds of industries and different sectors. So for film industry, I think it's important that we push our heritage forward because people want to know about Nigeria. They love, in Africa, they love Nollywood stories, and that's a fact. And we can expand by using distribution. Distribution is key. Netflix, all the Hollywood film houses, negotiate with them. Even if you don't get the best price for this show, make sure you check your contract, make sure you get it for your next film. So I think that's important, distribution. While I'm still alive, that's a very good question. Hope springs eternal with me, and I am optimistic about Nigeria. I think Nigeria is not what we all will think it will be. It's something it's a country that needs to be more fluid. We have in diaspora a lot of powerful individuals and groups. I think we need to connect even more with those individuals and groups who need to invest in Nigeria. Our youth is very talented and is very able, but it's also very abundant. So we need to find a way to link up education, apprenticeship to these youth to give them something that is productive to work in. And that means expanding your mind as parents. It's not just doctors, lawyers, bankers that we need. We need artisans, we need creatives. And that's the most important point. It's a mind block. So for me, if we can work on Nigeria's mind psyche and the taboos of oh, we don't want our child to marry musician. You know, even as a musician, you don't just have to be a rapper. You could be a music engineer. You could be a filmmaker. You could be an engineer that works with the technical aspects of editing. You could be a designer. There's so many aspects. So I say to my utopian Nigeria, learn from your brothers and sisters. International research online is very important. And for me, the dream is to see Nigeria as a fluid country of strength in Africa, where we're trading with African countries and we're using what we have as our asset. Technically, of course, we need Europe and America and everything, but we have it in Africa. We have it in Nigeria. So my beauty of Nigeria would be if we become our own Wakanda, working with other African states and enhancing our own GDP as well as our region and our continent's GDP working together. Gosh, my favorite, what's the first one? Food. As you can see, I like my food. I like a mixture actually. I like amala. I like yams. I swallow very well, whether it's with ogbono soup. That's very good. But also, from my mother's river side, there's one okra, seafood okra that my mom used to make. And I still strive to find that. I go and find that whenever I go away. In London, you have some nice Nigerian restaurants, and in Lagos, of course, as across Nigeria. But nothing like home cooking when my wife makes me a nice, I suppose she makes a goosey for me, eba, and that's my staple. My best music, I love Afrobeats, of course, but predominantly I'm a Fela man. Ebenezer Obey. I like the old styles. And I also like Zaire music. There's high life that comes across Africa. But to be lied to say I don't like Jimi Hendrix. I like Jimi Hendrix. He's a guitarist, a Native American, African American guitarist. I love his kind of music. So those are my mainstays. And Gorillas and De La Soul are still very great music of mine. Those are my Spotify at the moment. What was the other question? I like wrestling. They used to call it Gidigbo back in the day, Yoruba wrestling. I used to love that. I haven't seen that much lately, but I like Nigerian wrestling. Obviously, we play good football. We're great footballers as well, globally. But you said Nigerian sports. Polo. Nigeria, I like Nigerian polo as well. To my young brethren and children of Nigeria, I say it's important hard work. Hard work, research, and belief in yourself. Obviously, times are very tough at the moment and money is tight. But with your own creativity, you can build your empire from there. I always believe that from one's mind, you can make worlds and you shouldn't give up. Obviously, if you're not very great at one thing, you find what you are great at. But always be honest with yourself and treat others how you want to be treated. And remember, collaboration is the key or the little sister of success. And always have a smile. Very important. That's what I say.
I was born on the 16th day of October, 63 years ago. I'm from Opobo, yeah, and went to school. I'm from River State, from Opobo in River State. Went to school in Port Harcourt, lived in Port Harcourt all my life, from primary to secondary school to A-levels. Then after A-levels, I got admission to Unilag. Immediately after Unilag, I got married, and I've lived in Lagos ever since. Well, it was fun for us because me and my husband were very young. My husband was 25, I was 21 and all that. But we learned on the job. We were friends. We were friends for 3 years when I was in university, and we came out, we got married. So we're like children that just got married. But I had my parents. My parents were his very good friends. So when I get naughty, he would report me to my parents. When I didn't know these kind of duties were demands of somebody's wife, they would tell me this is my responsibility. I'm like, no. I will agree to some, I will not agree to some. But I mean, it was fun. We had our ups and downs, but kind of pushed through it. And then the children started coming, and it was a different ballgame. You know, when you come from that kind of family, it's like part of your system. You don't really regard it as anything anymore. But sometimes I get the shock of my life because there was a time my in-laws came to Opobo for one ceremony, and I saw the king, and he gave me a hug and he gave me a pic, and they were like, "Whoa, the Oba Bini won't even shake your hand, you know, as a woman." I'm like, okay. I mean, it's the same family, you understand? So we're used to that. I think we take it for granted. But maybe some other people say, you must call me a princess, you must call me that. I'm not into all those kind of things. I'm not at all. I've never been. So I can't start tomorrow. But yeah, great King Jaja of Opobo, my great-great-grandfather. And my children, when they studied it in school, they went to Corona school. When they studied, came, Mom, we're telling our teacher and our classmates that this King Dada of Opobo, they told them about King Dada of Opobo in school. And they said, that's my mommy's great-granddaughter. Like, whoa, no, it was like a big deal to them. For us. Absolutely, upbringing. Upbringing, my personal choice too. Because you could be brought up one way and choose to go another way. You understand? My one of my philosophies in life is like this. You're not the tallest in the world, you're not the shortest, you're not the prettiest, you're not the ugliest, you're not the richest, you're not the poorest. Oh, of course, get with it. Do you understand? If you're looking for beauty, there are more beautiful women than you say. If you're looking for ugly, there are uglier women. If you're looking for tall, you're looking for it. So what is it? Do you understand? You didn't come into this world with anything. You're not going to go with anything. So just be grateful to God for whatever you have or whatever you are. Work towards improving on it, improving your relationship with God Almighty and improving your relationship with your fellow human beings. That's my philosophy in life. So what's the point carrying all the air and chips on your shoulder? It makes life heavier for you. Journey seven is my favorite number. It's a number for perfection. And I was born on the 16th of October. My star sign is Libra. We're always looking for perfect balance in everything. It's just an influence from the horoscopes, I'm told. But J is my husband's name, D is my name, and 7 is my favorite number. Lazy way of forming the name of a company, isn't it? So I did, and it stuck. And I knew I was going to go into couture, so that was it. Easy. I was a victim of circumstance. I keep saying it. I didn't really come into business to be a fashion designer, to go into fashion, and creativity has always been something that's innate. Okay, even before I started making clothes or doing this, I used to always give designers the styles that I want them to make for me. I didn't have tailors, but when I finished my NYSC at Nigerian Television Authority in Victoria Island, I decided I wasn't going to work there. I wanted to work in a more organized setup. You understand? Because of management traineeship, because I never worked all my life. You know, my parents were too very protective. I'm the last girl in the family. They were always very protective. You know. So I said I wanted to work somewhere, and I prayed about it. And I got into Unilever. Then it was called Lever Brothers. And for 5 years, but you know, the intensity of work there became a bit much for me because I was a young mother. I had two kids then, was going on having the third one. So it became a bit time. Sometimes Unilever was one of the biggest. When the international directors come in, we used to be the ones to host them with all the Unilever affiliates. Linters, the advertising agency used to be here. All the Nigerian breweries, USC, you understand, AJC, words, all the we're all Unilever group. Sometimes I won't get home until 3 a.m. when we are hosting, and with kids in the house, it can be a bit much. So I'm like, I prayed about it and I decided something has to give. It's either your family, your children will you will not give them the attention they need then, and they were growing fast, or your job will suffer, and then you will not be happy whichever way. So I decided, you know what, let my priority be my family, and I decided to go back. And I put in my resignation. That was not what I'm fine. When I did, my chairman refused to accept the resignation, so I had to use another way to encourage him to accept it. So I left Unilever. I said, okay, I wasn't the type of person that suited for being a housewife. I wanted to do the kind of business I would do, but still have 100% time for the kids. So when the kids said, oh, they're having something in school, I'm there. Okay. I decided I was going to just market corporate gifts. When I was in Unilever, I was the assistant corporate affairs manager in charge of press. So, and being in Unilever at the corporate affairs level, I already knew a lot of companies. So I used that opportunity to get back to those companies and introduce my new business. And in the first year, I actually made more money than my 5 year stint in Unilever. So that was enough encouragement. You make more money, do your own business. You have more time for your kids, for your family, and for yourself. And you travel quite a bit because you have to go and buy the corporate gifts. So it was a win-win. Then, a few years down the line, the president, Olusegun Obasanjo, came in and said they were doing backward integration and they were going to stop the importation of all this corporate gift and a lot of other things. So we were actually forced to look inwards. And when we started looking inwards, that's when it hit me. Apart from Big, that was being produced by Eleganza, we're not really manufacturing anything in Nigeria apart from textiles and maybe I think Eleganza was doing food flask or something. And which corporate body do you want to give as end of year gift? So what we had to do now, because a lot of my clientele were like Shell, Chevron, I started looking at what. I said, okay, if I have to do something, I can do beddings, pillowcase trimmings, table covers, table placemat, napkins with fabrics like Ashok and Adira. I can do jute bags, you know. It came to me. So I had to go and buy one machine and employed one tailor. So sometimes they will call me. I did some samples. So when even in Abuja, when they were going to have, like I remember the West African Women's Affairs, they had a conference. So they wanted jute bags, and we had about 1,000 or 2,000 jute bags, and that was quite nice. Plus, apart from the end of year activities, so that's it. But you know, after those periods, you have periods of lull, like you're not using the machine and the tailor. You have to be paying tailor for doing it. I'm like, why am I going to these people to make my clothes? Tailor, oh yeah, this is the style I want. I started first by giving some of my clothes, repeat it. You did well. So I started designing. I could sketch very well. I was a science student in school, but I could sketch really well. So I was sketching, would do well. And sometimes when I wear the clothes and I go to supermarket, some women will just call me, hey, I really like this thing you're wearing. Please, where did you make it? I'm like, okay, I'll give you the address. I give them the address. They started coming. Before I could say that, within 1 month, I had over 50 women I had to make clothes for. And the one tailor was no longer enough. I had to employ two others. That was how we started. From 2 to 4, then I had a whole factory before you could see that. I started making school uniforms, started doing all kinds of things. And then some of the magazines, like Genevieve magazine, look around like, Are you sure you make this outfit? I thought you were a broadcaster. I thought you sell. I said, yes, I did. So I did some photo shoot session for her. And I modeled the clothes, actually. And whoa, I started getting calls from Paris, from the UK. I did DC Fashion Week. I was just, and they will pay your ticket, pay your hotel. Please come and showcase for us. Some will even say, please come and open the show for us. Some say, we want you to close this. I'm like, okay. There are places that I would never have thought of going to, like Burkina Faso. They will buy me the top fashion designers that would, when the Alfadi does this thing once every 4 years. Alfadi in Niger. The Niger government sponsors it. He calls all, including Elisab, every international designer, they will go, especially the Moroccan ones, those North African ones, Indians. So they invite one designer from each country. So they used to call me to come because of what I used to work a lot with Ankara and Ashok, and I do international acclaimed, how would I put it, couture outfits with Ankara, big hats, funny looking, structured clothes and all that. So that was how it went. And I did all the magazines. I've won all the awards. So after a while, I started thinking of concentrating on exports. In the process of doing that, my husband took ill. After 2 years, we lost him. So when I came back home, I gave a lot of things a lot of thought. My kids were still in school. My daughter got married. She was in Australia already. And then my kids, my two boys were still in school. So I said, look, this fashion design thing is not going to pay school fees in pounds, sterling, and dollars. So I said to myself, you know what? Why don't you give the man hours to the industry, the family business that were yielding the most income? That was how I started kind of just saying, you know what, let me just minimize it a bit. My core clients were still coming. So I kept the tailors, my experienced tailors that worked with for years. I kept them. I kept few of them. And I kind of cut down on that business. I said, you know what, let me just go and face the family business and do this for the people who really know what I'm doing. And word of man goes. So I'm still doing that, but my priority is really not that. When you look at me the first time you see me, you see a fragile woman that don't like to sweat, that's spoiled, that like to be kept. I'm like, what? Absolutely not. My husband didn't want me to do anything. He just felt he wanted to spoil me. I said, that's not how to love me at all. Please. It's either you kind of understand the person I am. I'm a very creative mind. This mind has to keep working, or I'll make life miserable for you. What I will advise, even women who are willing to work, you don't even do one job. You must get at least more than 2 streams of income. Otherwise, you will not make ends meet. That is the truth of today's world. You understand? Then those ones that want to be kept, no matter how wealthy your husband is, wealth is not static. Some people start today. When they retire, everything goes downhill. Some people mean well. They love you. They want to take care of you. But nature calls. They part ways. Some marry other women. Some leave. Some die. You understand? So anything can happen. I would advise them, everybody, try to be as independent as you can. Financially independent. I think you actually earn more respect when you do that. And then also, when things don't work out too well for the husband, no matter how rich you are, you don't have to put him through too much stress. You can take care of yourself, you can take care of yourself, you take care of him, you encourage him, but let him not feel that the world has come to an end. A man feels happy when he knows that his back is covered, even when he's not making it. You understand? It doesn't make him lazy. It makes him very grateful. Yeah. So I will advise everybody, get something doing. Do something that will enable you earn good income if you can. Do something that you also enjoy doing. I've always believed in garbage in, garbage out. Yeah? Garbage in is the stress abound. You cannot control that. But you can control your attitude towards stress. Stress is the #1 killer and ages of everything in this world. It's your attitude to stress that you have to manage, and that depends on you. What you put in your mouth also depends on you. Your mind, your heart, your spirit, your soul. You have to be loving. You have to be forgiving. You understand? All that depends on you. So it's actually you that decide whether you're going to age gracefully or you're not. Forget about the genes first. It's true. You understand? Some people are so malicious. When you offend them once, oh my goodness, they will carry it in their chest, and the chest will be expanding, and they won't sleep well, and they begin to have problems. Meanwhile, the person you're angry with does not even know you exist. It's crazy. So for me, it's just be free and take life easy. Take it as it comes, and always be grateful to God. Mm, I'm too honest and straightforward. It's either I will be killed immediately, or because I will tell you the truth, no matter whose ask is God. I don't think I can play politics. I'm not a politician at all. I am a very straight shooter. I will tell you to your face when you're doing stupid things. That was my relationship with my mom, my dad, my husband. So most times I'm the last girl in the house. So maybe when they were disciplining the first ones, by the time they got to my turn, they were a bit tired. So we could talk to my parents anyhow. But I don't do it to create whatever. I just feel that if anybody worth talking to is worth talking to with honesty and integrity. And when you want to play politics, they will see something that is black. They will say it's yellow. I can't do that. For the love of me, I can't. So politics is not my call. And because of that, they will not allow your creativity to come out, your sincerity. What's the point? Yes. I'm actually planning some kind of. I met some of my old models that are doing very well. And when you deal with a lot of these girls, some of them have traveled with me to Niger. Sometimes they'll tell you, bring 2 of your models. Some of them, we have very good relationship. We're going to do a reunion one of these days. It will be fun. And they are all calling, when are we going to do this? I say, don't worry. We'll get a reunion done. Because we need to revisit the fashion industry, see how things are going. They're doing well. The new ones are doing well. And I just pray that the environment will not discourage them. It's not just Nigeria, it's the world. Whatever is happening in Nigeria is what the truth is. A crate of egg in Nigeria is still cheaper than a crate of egg in the US and in the UK, even with the exchange rate. So it's not just Nigeria, the world is experiencing some kind of. The way I see it is like the pangs of birth before the child finally comes. That intense labor. And then when the child is born, everything is calm and beautiful, everybody's happy. I think we are just towards the end of the labor pain. It's going to get better, but we're going to pass through a lot of that before it gets better. And when it finally gets better, we'll all be smiling. But right now, the whole world, not just Nigeria, is crazy. If you look at international, listen to international news, it's actually crazier than here. I just pray. Yes, I live opposite. I won't even say it. On the street, one of the big men that live on that street. His birthday was yesterday, and the whole street was filled with beggars, hungry people. It was really crazy. I felt so bad. We were pushing each other, killing each other, fighting just to get a plate of jollof rice. It was very sad. It didn't used to be that bad. It didn't used to be. There were a few people who would come hang around, but the whole street, I couldn't move anywhere yesterday because of it. But I hope it gets better soon, so that the best in all of us can come out. Because hunger and poverty can actually bring out the worst in people. Naturally, yes. I have an NGO that I do. What I do, I take girls, young girls that are not able to complete school because of poverty, and I educate them. You understand? I try to pay school fees, help people. I believe in education a lot. Yeah, because I don't believe in giving you the fish. I believe in teaching you how to fish. I have few of them from my place come stay with me. Some of them are able to stand the discipline. Some of them are not able. So the ones that are able to say they stay and they do very well. Some of them I train from a distance and they do well. So I've had university graduates, I have A levels, I have all kinds of things. That's what I do. And most people come to me naturally, not because I'm a trained mentor or anything. When you do anything out of love, an act of sincerity of purpose, and because they see you as genuine, they listen to you. You understand? When you mean well, you tell people the honest truth, and it's not easy sometimes, but yes, a kind of mentor.
A very good afternoon to you and welcome to the World News reaching you live from our studios at Souq News Television. I am Oyin Priye Krumane. Now, let's begin from the commodities market where Ugandan shilling remained stable in early trading today, supported by foreign currency and the inflows from coffee and other commodity exporters have said. Traders reported that increased dollar supply helped maintain the exchange rates. At 8:20 GMT, commercial banks quoted the shilling at 3,660 to 3,670 shillings to the dollar, exchanged from Tuesday's closing levels. The stability signals balanced forex demand and supply in the market. Analysts suggested that the continued commodity export could keep the shilling steady, though external economic pressures may influence future movements. The Ugandan currency remained resilient amid regional economic dynamics, according to reports. Now, relatively, the Kenyan shilling remained steady today, with traders expecting potential gains in the coming days due to anticipated inflows from the Kenyan in diaspora. Foreign currency remittances continued to play a key role in stabilizing the local currency. At 8:25 GMT, commercial banks quoted the shilling at 129.20 shillings to the dollar, unchanged from Tuesday's closing rate. The currency has shown resilience amid fluctuating global economic conditions. Analysts suggest that sustained remittances inflows could further strengthen the shillings, although external economic pressures may still influence market trends. Investors remain watchful of upcoming forex movements, according to reports. Now, still in Kenya, workers will continue paying higher contributions to national social security funds as the Retirement Benefits Authority delay regulatory relief. The delay means employees must comply with increased deductions, impacting disposable income amid rising living costs. The Retirement Benefit Authority, led by Chief Executive Officer Charles Makira, has yet to provide a timeline for potential adjustments, leaving employers employers rather, and workers uncertain. The high deductions follow recent pension reforms aimed at boosting retirement savings but have sparked concerns over affordability. Now, with no immediate relief in sight, employees are urging authorities to fast-track interventions. According to analysts, the warning came that prolonged delays could strain household budgets, while the government maintains that great increase rather than savings will secure better retirement in the long term. Moving on, away from that, Democratic Republic of the Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi and Rwanda's President Paul Kagame have called for an immediate ceasefire and unconditional truce in the eastern Congo during talks mediated by Qatar in Doha. This marks their first meeting since the M23 rebels' escalated attacks in January worsened the region's humanitarian crisis. Despite the ceasefire call, rebels who control vast territories, including major cities, have not signaled compliance. Congo accuses Rwanda of backing M23 rebels, while Rwanda claims self-defense. Now, previous ceasefire efforts, including an Angolan-hosted meeting, failed as M23 withdrew. Both leaders acknowledged the need for continued discussions to secure lasting peace. Qatar's mediation follows its recent diplomatic efforts in global conflicts, leveraging its close ties with Rwanda to facilitate a dialogue. Experts suggest pressure is mounting on Tshisekedi to find a resolution as violence displaces hundreds of thousands of people in the country. Now, moving ahead, both South Africa's inflation rate remained steady at 3.2% in February, defying expectations of a slight increase to 3.3%, according to official data. This marks continued stability in consumer prices, staying well below the South African Reserve Bank's target midpoint of 4.5%. With the central bank set to announce its interest rate decisions on Thursday, analysts remain divided. While some expect another 25 basis point rate cuts, others argue that external risks, including United States trade policies and domestic budget uncertainties, may prompt a pause. A recent poll from Reuters found that 16 out of the 22 economists predict the South African Reserve Bank will hold its benchmark interest rate at 7.50%. However, a minority expect a rate cut, citing subdued inflation as possible triggers for further monetary easing. Still, the World News will bring you details and more stories after this break. Do join us again. Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us. Now we move on to Qatar, where the banks continue to demonstrate profitable and strong capital resilience with their Tier 1 and capital adequacy ratios exceeding regulatory requirements, according to an I report. The country's banking sector is benefiting from domestic funding sources, credit expansion, and a boost in liquefied natural gas production, supporting economic growth. The report highlights that banks maintain high capital levels, with Qatar's financial institutions poised to sustain their positive performance in 2025. Credit growth remains strong due to major infrastructure projects and economic diversification efforts, particularly in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Rising lending volumes, stable margins, and efficient cost management are further reinforcing the region's banking stability. But the region's GDP projected to grow by 3.5% in 2025, supported by the non-oil export expansion. Qatar's banks are expected to capitalize on favorable economic conditions. The report suggests that the GCC banks should leverage technological advancements like AI, digital banking, and open finance to enhance profitability and competitiveness in an evolving financial landscape. Now, the United Arab Emirates and the United States of America are strengthening their $1 trillion economic partnership, focusing on investment in AI, energy, and data centers. The high-level discussions between both countries and the National Security Advisor, Sheikh Tahnoun bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and the United States President Donald Trump in Washington aimed to expand these strategic sectors. The growth economic ties span industries from Texas oil fields to Silicon Valley, reflecting a deepening commitment between the two nations. Key areas of collaboration include artificial intelligence, energy infrastructure, and technology-driven investments, positioning the UAE as a key player in the United States economy. As both countries explore further opportunities, the UAE seeks to reinforce its global investment footprints while enhancing bilateral trade. This partnership highlights the UAE's strategic economic vision, ensuring long-term cooperation with the United States of America in emerging industries. Now, Egypt recorded a primary surplus of 330 billion Egyptian pounds in the first half of 2024 to 2025 fiscal year, marking its highest surplus to date. Finance Minister Ahmed Kochok attributed this to a 38.4% year-on-year increase in tax revenues, the highest growth rate in the years so far. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouly reviewed the nation's financial performance, emphasizing the government's commitment to fiscal discipline. Spending on health care and education increased by 29% and 24% respectively, while subsidies and social benefits saw a 44% surge. Now, the Turkish lira plunged to a record low after authorities detained President Erdogan's main political rival, triggering investor concerns and shifting to safe haven assets like the United States dollar. The dollar strengthened, pushing down major currencies, while Turkish stocks and bonds face heavy pressure. Meanwhile, the Bank of Japan kept interest rates unchanged, causing volatility in the yen, and traders awaited the United States Federal Reserve's policy decision. The euro slipped by 0.4% against the United States dollar, despite a recent support from Germany's fiscal reforms. Market analysts linked the currency movement to global risk aversions, with investors reacting to geopolitical tensions, including ongoing conflicts in Gaza and uncertainty around U.S. economic policies. The Federal Reserve's stance on interest rates later in the day could further impact market trends. We'll be back in a moment to join us again.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Now, China has banned or ended a 2-year ban on poultry importation from Argentina, reopening trade after suspending imports in 2023 due to high pathogenic avian influenza. The decision follows a risk analysis by China's custom authorities, allowing shipments to resume from March the 17th. Before the ban, Argentina was China's third largest chicken supplier, and the reopening strengthens its position in the market. The move comes amid China's ongoing trade tensions with the United States of America, which faces a 15% tariff on poultry exports to China. China's decision is expected to boost Argentina's poultry sector while diversifying China's meat supply. Now, the Bank of Japan has maintained its short-term policy rate after 0.5%, citing global economic uncertainty linked to United States trade policies. Governor Kazuo Ueda highlighted the rise in food costs and wage growth could push inflation higher, but noted that further rate hikes would depend on upcoming economic data. The Bank of Japan's decision comes amid fears of a global slowdown due to United States President Donald Trump's tariff hikes on steel, aluminum, and potential automobile. Japan's export to the United States, particularly in the auto sector, faces risks impacting business sentiments. Now, despite external concerns, Japan's domestic economy shows signs of inflationary pressure, with wage negotiations delivering strong pay hikes. The Bank of Japan will reassess its policy outlook in April review, with economists predicting a possible rate hike come the month of July. Now, the United States of America Federal Reserve has decided to keep interest rates unchanged, maintaining the 4.25% to 4.50% range as policymakers assess economic condition under the new Trump administration. A fresh policy statement and economic projections will be released, with Fed Chair Jerome Powell set to address concerns in a press conference. Market watchers are keen to see if the Fed still expects rate cuts this year, given recent economic shifts. Trump's trade policies include tariffs and federal layoffs have raised concern about inflation, employment, and overall economic growth. Analysts suggest that the federal government may be more worried about policy risk than it openly admits. While inflation remains above the 2% target and job growth has slowed, uncertainty over trade tensions and potential recession risk will shape future monetary policy decisions, according to reports. Now, in a new development, the United States President Donald Trump is set to meet with top oil executives at the White House later today to discuss energy policies and trade concerns. The closed-door meeting will be first with industry leaders since returning to office, with key figures from ExxonMobil, Chevron, and ConocoPhillips expected to attend. The decision is set to center on strategies to boost United States oil production amid falling crude prices and trade tensions with Mexico and Canada. Executives are expected to advocate for higher oil prices and highlight concerns over tariffs on imported crude. Industry representatives are also pushing for reforms in permitting offshore leasing and tax incentives for carbon capture. Now, still to come on the news is sports. Tennis icon Djokovic leads lawsuit against tennis governing body. We'll bring you details of that story in a bit. Do stay with us. Now, tennis superstar Novak Djokovic has launched a major lawsuit against the sports governing bodies, accusing them of anti-competitive practices and player exploitation. The lawsuit, which includes other professional players, alleges systemic abuse and unfair restrictions that limit players' financial and career opportunities. Djokovic's legal action claimed that the tennis organization operates like a cartel, controlling tournament structures, revenue distributions, and ranking systems in ways that disadvantage players. The lawsuit seeks to reform and create a fairer and more transparent system for athletes. This case could reshape professional tennis by challenging long-standing regulations and governance structures. If successful, it may lead to increased player autonomy, financial benefits, and fundamental changes in how the sport is managed globally. And that's why we call it a wrap on the world news on Souq News Television. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms at Souq News TV. I'm Oyin Priye Krumale. Good afternoon to you.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an armed forces remembrance cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Markets, Souq Enlightenment.
To start with, let me give some introduction to myself. As you said, I was a former commissioner of finance. I was a commissioner of finance during the Ganduja's administration from June 2015 to October 2018. I was there for 28 months, okay, as a commissioner of finance. And I had been with Bayero University, Kano, before I was appointed commissioner of finance. Still, I'm a professor of accounting in the university, but I double as a commissioner of taxation, because at the Prince Abubakar Audu University, Ayumba, Kogi State, there was a chair that had been vested there by the Federal Revenue Service in 2011. And they invited applicant for that chair, and I was the successful person, successful applicant. So I still occupy that chair, even though the chair is not functioning. But I got the privilege of serving as the elected or selected professor of taxation in that university. So I am in the area of taxation. I have done a lot of researches in that. And then I serve as the Federal Commissioner of the Tax Appeal Tribunal. So it was on 15th November that our tenure came to an end from 2018